as a speaker. So tune in. And the week after, we're going to take a break from Lunch and Learn to have Harry and I are going to, and Pat and Sheila and we're going to try to do something socially distanced, but in the same spot, probably on a Sunday evening, just to officially, from the district standpoint, induct Harry and for me to say goodbye in my role, and to induct any incoming president that wants to be a part of it as well from any of the clubs. So more to come on that. And hopefully Harry wants to keep this going. So hopefully you'll get a new schedule in the new year in July, and we'll have more great dynamic speakers. We're starting to see some clubs itching to get back to in-person meetings. So we'll see how that happens. A lot of logistical issues still in place, but luckily that's not for me to figure out anymore after July 1. And what an amazing coincidence to have the Perth police force come and speak to us during a time where we're dealing with a lot of thoughts about our own police forces around the United States of America. And of course, we all support 100% the vast majority of men and women who go out and risk their lives and do amazing work day in and day out across this country. But we also know that there's probably some change that needs to happen, some reform to ensure that folks, what happened won't happen again. And I used to tell the story 15 times over. 7610 put out our letter on behalf of people of color and what we believe and how we can support greater dialogue and bringing in our police captains to speak to our membership and things of that nature. We get a better understanding of where they need our support and how they can better support our communities. When I was at Georgetown, I went to Georgetown with a gentleman who's a director at this firm who provides leadership training. And there's a great video. If I can find it, I'm going to send it to folks. But they went out and worked for the Kansas City Police Department. And just in 2-second synopsis, the issue Kansas City was having was there was basically a section of town where there was a lot of immigrant day laborers hanging out. And they wouldn't do anything too awfully bad, but they, maybe smoking some weed, drinking some beer out in public, just sort of being maybe what you would call a public nuisance, but not trying to hurt anybody, not trying to cause problems really. But the police force came in and was using a lot of force, and it just caused a lot of problems. And so after several years of trying to fix the problem using the current techniques that the police force had, they brought in this firm. And this firm talked a lot about empathy and getting to understand individuals and working with communities. And it transformed the relationship the police had with those day laborers, their ability to communicate, how the police could support them, and ensuring these people had food and safety, and how the community got involved in supporting educational opportunities and workforce opportunities. And it ended up relieving the police force from a large burden they had. And it was a great learning experience for all. And so I think, to me, that model is one way out of this situation. And that's, being open-minded, being empathetic to others, and caring for everybody, including oneself. And so what better example can we have of that, of these great men from the Perth Police Force who unfortunately didn't get to come here this spring, but we're going to ensure they get here next spring. And maybe they knew some policing force while here. I don't know. But they were supposed to be on a couple weeks ago.
Good idea.
We're glad to have them today. They're going to talk about what the plan is for the coming year as far as the trip over and our our partnership with Australia to get maybe people over there as well. And just very glad to have them. Everybody loves these guys, so I'm glad that they are able to join us. And I really thank you all for staying up to midnight to do this. So I know this is not fun time of night to do a webinar, but so Steve, Grant, and Jeromy, it's all yours, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're on mute, Jeromy.
There you go. I'll try again. I'll start over. Thanks for having us. We're glad to be here. And look, we would have loved to come over, but deep down, I'm actually glad that we didn't at the time, because everyone was going through a lot of hardship, and it wouldn't have been a great time for anyone. So, look, tonight we're gonna keep it light. We're gonna open it up to some questions after, so you guys can ask us any questions you like about, I don't know, about what's going on over there, and our feelings and so on. But feel free to ask us whatever you like. But what we won't answer is anything about gun control. Seems to be a touchy subject every time we talk about it. So what I'll do is, I've got a bit of a slide, if you don't mind me bringing that up. Should have worked this out before I came in. See if that works. All right. Can everyone see that?
Got it.
Perfect.
Looks good.
All right, so I'll just quickly go through this and I'll introduce my team and they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. And then what we're going to do is talk a little bit about West Australian Police Force. And then we've got a bit of a quiz for all the Americans out there to see what your knowledge of Australia actually is and how much we need to educate you when we come across. So many of you already know me, and if you didn't know me, I came across in 2013 as part of a GSE team. There's a few pictures of that reality crew that if anyone got to experience, I'm sure that you remember as well. I think you had to replace all the beer stocks after we left. So a fair bit's happened since then. In 2014, I came back over to New York and umpired the US Open. I used to umpire international tennis, and I stayed with Steve and Crocs while I was back over there. And I've also had 2 children. The first one was born 9 months after I came back from the US Open, so I'll let you do the maths. I've also been promoted to sergeant within the WA Police Force. So as I said, I've got 2 children. My oldest is now 5. He just turned 5 a couple of weeks back. His name's Noah, and the youngest is Logan. He's 3.5. I've got a younger brother, and he got married 2 weeks before the COVID restrictions kicked in. So if he'd waited another 2 weeks, he wouldn't have been able to have his wedding. So we're quite fortunate to have that. And he's also had a little baby girl, so I'm now a proud uncle as well. I'll hand over to Steve O'Waring. Make sure you unmute yourself, Steve, and let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thanks for doing the unmute thing for us. My name's Steve. I'm the youngest in the group so far. I'm 29 years old. As you can see the slide here, my family, I've got a pretty close-knit family. I've got quite a few siblings. I've got one older brother who's married with 3 kids now. I've got 2 younger brothers and 2 younger sisters. I'm recently married to my wonderful wife, Michelle. We have no kids at the moment, but as she likes to put it, we have three kids, Harry, Luna, and Bartok, the cat, as you can see. That's my family at the moment.
Yeah, we'll hand over to Grant. Sticks. I'll let him explain why his nickname Sticks.
Hey guys, so Sticks is a relatively new nickname. Actually came about from New Year's Eve when I was working in Northbridge, chasing after a fella. I've turned a bit too quickly and unfortunately torn my ACL. So I had a complete tear, and I've only recently come back to work on the front line. I've been back for 2 weeks now. which is fantastic. So I'm out of the office, which I'm very glad about. So I've probably got the least experience out of the team here. I've been in for about 5 years and recently promoted as well. So I joined in 2015, where we did 6 months in the academy. From there, I've gone from the booze bus to another station at Mirrabooka, a bit of a bigger station. And I'm currently on the bike team at Perth CBD. We patrol around the entertainment precinct and the central business district as well. Been doing that for a bit over a year now on the bikes, and I've been at Perth for 3 years. So not too much longer, I'll be moving on. My long-term girlfriend, been together for 8 years now. We're getting married at the end of the year, which is on New Year's. So I'm looking forward to that. No children as of yet, but as you can see, we've got 2 dogs, Pixie and Sabre. Sabre being the German Shepherd. And yes,
Thanks, Grant. Sorry, I actually cut one of Steve's. Out. Steve, you want to tell us what you do?
Oh, you cut one out. I was wondering that. Yeah, so I am a detective. I am only a recent detective, so I've been a detective for about 4 years now. I have been in the police force for 10 years at the moment. I was a cadet by the age of 17, so I'm pretty much a
Not a
life.
very good one.
No, shut up, Jeromy. Can't be very good when you have you as your leader. Yeah, so I'm a lifelong police officer. My role's a little bit different to everybody else's. I have been in the position everybody else has been in as a uniformed officer, but now I've moved on to a more investigative stance. So I take on the role of actually following through the file from the beginning stages of when it's just happened and taking people to the hospital and all that kind of stuff. So I do the follow-up work. I go out and get statements. I investigate. I go find the actual criminals, talk to them, and proceed with charges. So I do more the more serious offences like sexual assaults, serious assaults. I do everything.
We won't comment, Grant. Moving on, I'll tell you a little bit about WA Police, or West Australian Police Force. So as you can see by that profile picture, we pretty much have everything that you have. We've got aeroplanes, we've got helicopters, we've got boats, we've got dogs, we've got horses. A little bit of a different dynamic here is we have, Grant mentioned it earlier, we have what we call booze buses, which is the top left picture. So we actually have the statutory legislation here to be able to stop and breath test any driver driving at any road at any given time without probable cause. So if you're driving on a road, we can simply pull you over and give you a breath test to ensure that you're not over the legal limit. And the legal limit here is 0.05. I think it's 0.8 over there. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we are very unique in our policing over here. So we are responsible for policing the world's largest single police jurisdiction. We cover 2.5 million square kilometres, which I managed to break that down into 1.5 million miles. Our uniforms are pictured there in the middle. The bloke in the middle is wearing our new ballistic vests and stab-proof vests. So we've recently acquired them. Not all of us have them as yet. But considering we don't deal with as much gun crime as what you would in the US due to our gun laws, we haven't really required them up until now. So they don't actually carry a bulletproof plate in them. They are stab-proof, and we carry the bulletproof plate separately in our kit bags. And if we were to attend a job where there's a mention of a firearm, then we'd put the bulletproof plate in there to protect us a little bit. On the left is our more commissioned officers going around in their shirts and ties. And our shirts have actually just recently changed as well, similar colour still. So I'm going to put it into perspective a little bit. The state of Virginia again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my research, has 340 law enforcement agencies. In the state of Western Australia, we have one. We are the only policing jurisdiction. The map you can see there is a map of Virginia inside of the state of Western Australia. So it just shows you the difference in size. Virginia has just over 22,000 sworn police officers. Australia has 6,000. As you can see, WA is 23 times the size of Virginia with only a third of its population. We had 2.72 million, and that was of last year's census. So the policing is broken down, so that's our large state. We're broken down into 8 regional districts, which you can see there are the larger districts. We have 7 metropolitan districts. So that little pink one, purple, I'm a bit colourblind, just down from the middle on the left on the coast, you can see Perth. So within that, there's 7 police jurisdictions, districts. We have 150 police stations, otherwise precincts, across the state, and we cover that whole area. A lot of the internal side of the state there is desert and or Aboriginal communities that have been there since day dot. Where are we? All right, a little bit about Rotary in Western Australia. So in Western Australia, we have 2 Rotary districts. They're split into 2. So one is above the Swan River, which cuts through the middle of Perth, and the other is below. So it's not exactly half of the state because Perth's down in the bottom half, but the majority of our population is obviously in the metropolitan area or south of that. So it's quite, it evens out, as you can see there. So we'll be travelling with District 9455, which is the Northern District. We have over 1,300 members currently, and our district governor is based in Perth. We have 49 clubs. The southern side of the districts, the southern side of the state has 47 clubs, 1,250 members, and their district governor is currently in Rockingham, but as yours is, it's due to change over in less than a month. All right, so I've put a bit of a quiz together. So Jonathan, I don't know if you can unmute everyone or who's got control. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to nominate Jonathan to answer the first question. And then Jonathan will get you to nominate someone beyond that. We've got 10 questions. So once you've had a question, nominate someone else and we'll ask the next question. So I'll get Grant to kick it off. These guys haven't even seen the questions yet. So
before you kick it off, just to let everybody know, to unmute yourself, you push down your space bar, and when you let it back up, it mutes you again.
Richard, I could have known that about 10 minutes ago.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. All right, Grant, you ready? You can ask District Governor Jonathan the first question.
Righty, Jonathan, what is the capital city of Australia?
Capital city is...
No Googling it, Jonathan.
Yeah, no Googling there.
Not Googling. I can't believe I don't know this off the top of my head. Is it Perth?
No, definitely not.
Melbourne. Canberra.
Canberra.
So there's a bit of a story behind Canberra. So Melbourne and Sydney are our big hubs within Australia. They're normally where people go to travel if they're coming from overseas. There was a bit of a fight when they were trying to decide the capital city of Australia. And instead of giving it to one of them, they decided to build their own state and city in between them both. And hence Canberra and the Australian Capital Territory, which is a state or a territory within Australia, was founded. Who do you want to nominate, Jonathan? Who's up?
Oh, let's go to Dave Borowski.
Dave Borowski. All right, Steve, you got the next question?
Yeah, I'll read it out with that. What does it mean when someone says fair dinkum?
Does it mean that's good?
Close.
Okay, close. It's the truth.
Pretty close, pretty close.
Yeah,
All right,
pretty good.
You got Dave. Who's next?
Okay, let me see who's on here. I will nominate Renee Laws.
Oh, she should know it. She should know. Her daughter's down here at the moment. All right, I'll ask you this one, Renee. Oh, that's a tough one too. and most of these questions are based around our Australian spirit of drinking. Which former Australian Prime Minister set a drinking record, and what was it? Good luck.
Wow, I should know this for several reasons. Let's see. Former Australian. I googled it. Sorry, I googled it. Former Australian Prime Minister Bob Hawke was awarded the world record holder for the fastest drinking of a yard of beer when he downed a sconce pot in 11 seconds. So, good job, guys.
Renee, can you say who's online or not?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay, who do you want to nominate?
Earl Bachman.
Earl, all right. Grant, you got this one?
Thanks, Renee.
All right.
Welcome.
How long would it take to visit every Australian beach if you could only visit one a day?
I think Earl's Googling it as well.
A year. How about a year? Oh, gee.
29.
29 years. We are an island. We are an island. We have just over 10,000 beaches. All right. Who do you want, Earl?
How about Glen Yarborough?
Glenn and Steve, you're up.
Yep. Are there more kangaroos or humans in Australia?
Considering we ride them everywhere.
Kangaroos.
Oh, good on you. 40 million kangaroos. They're hard to miss when you're playing golf.
Wow.
Who
2-1.
would you like?
Earl Bauman.
You already did him.
Earl's already gone. Try again.
All right, let's see. I don't know. Jonathan, you want to try one?
I've already done one too.
Oh, my goodness. I better look and see who's left. Lois Wilson.
Oh, Lois. Good one. I'll ask Lois this one. You ready, Lois?
Oh, no. But go ahead. Go.
Of the 25 deadliest snakes in the world, how many would you find in Australia?
25.
Close. 21.
21.
21.
Wow.
Close.
Yeah, we got a lot to look out for over here. All right, who do you want, Lois? Only a couple left.
Oh, let's see. I don't know who's on. Let's see. How about
Stephanie would be a good Lois.
did that go through? Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Oh. Okay. I said Barry Gordon.
Barry? All right, here we go, Barry. Oh, good one.
And I have to drop, unfortunately, because I have a work call.
No worries. Thanks for joining.
Okay.
All right, Grant, go for it.
Alrighty. What is Vegemite made from?
I don't know, but it smells awfully bad.
Think about what we like to do.
Beer and yeast.
Yes.
Well, leftover.
Well done. Well done. All right, two more left. Who do you want next, Barry?
Let's see who's on, if I can tell. I can't see who's on, so who would like to do it?
Who's next?
Sure, I'll make a fool of myself.
Go on, Bob. You ready? Steve, go for it.
When an Aussie tells you he's going to bend an elbow, what is he on about?
He's going to go drinking.
You know us too well. All right, who's left? There's got to be someone else out there. We've got last question. Richard? All right, here we go. What unexpected animal does Australia export to Saudi Arabia?
Easy.
Well, Holcomb's got that one. A camel. That's what I was going to say. I think
How do you accidentally?
I think there are camels in Australia, and that they export them to Saudi Arabia may be possible.
Spot on. Absolutely spot on. I think you phoned a friend there, James. Well done. All right, that's oh no, sorry, we've got one more. James, you can answer this one since you're there. What do terms bloke and Sheila mean? Last question. James? Anyone know the answer to this one?
Bloke's a guy and Sheila's a woman.
Perfect, spot on. And that's it for us. Anyone got any questions for us?
So is it true that
I have some questions. I noticed in the pictures in your presentation here, saying that there is only, unlike Virginia, which has many separate law enforcement agencies, that I understood you to say that there was only one in your section of the country. But I saw a picture of one of your colleagues with a label sheriff. And I was wondering if you can expand upon that. I'm particularly interested. I'm a retired attorney, but before I became an attorney, and one of the things that probably led me to go to law school is I ran for and got elected as constable. And here in the States, a constable is a common law constable from England, which you may or may not do. It dates back to the reign of King Alfred, which is 871 AD. And so I didn't know whether you could tell us a little bit more as to what the extent your forces rely upon English common law for determining what powers your officers have.
So we base our policing a lot off the English. We tried to base our model off the English, and it didn't work. So we went back to our own model a few years back. But when it comes to our rank structure, we base it around the English. So our rank structure, I'll just go through the basic ones. So our area is run by a commissioner of police. He's selected by the government, whichever government's sitting at the time, and he's got a 4-year tenure. Then we go down to the bottom, we have constables, as you mentioned before. So they start as probationary constables for 18 months, and then they move into constables. They do that for 5 years, and then they move into what we call a first-class constable, which is what Grant has just been promoted to. And that's following your first 5 years of policing. Once you've done 9 years of policing, you get the rank of senior constable, and that's what Steve is currently. He's a detective senior constable. And then following senior constable, there's a selection process that you can apply for to become a sergeant. You can actually skip from first class constable to sergeant, which I was lucky enough to do. And then from there, we go senior sergeant, inspector, superintendent, and then we go into the commissioned officer ranks. So we're very much based around the English with our own little twist to it as well.
Did I correctly see in a picture someone with a uniform that said sheriff?
I don't think so. Not in the pictures I put up. No, they're all Western Australian police. So we don't have sheriffs here. We do, but they're private. They're a private company that work for the courts to serve paperwork. That's all they do. They've got no powers of arrest or any policing. It's actually a private enterprise. So when it comes to policing the state, there is only one jurisdiction, that's West Australian Police Force with the 6,000 police. We do have a federal body that will come in and sit over the top of us for federal crimes and things like people smuggling, which we had which was quite rife a few years back. People from third world countries trying to boat people into our country, and also drugs being smuggled in. We have the federal and border police for that. But when it comes to policing within the state, it's only one.
In our country, sheriffs and constables, or in Virginia, the police have the powers of constables. They are frequently used for enforcing civil warrants from the courts. who enforces civil process there? That is a writ of execution, levying on property and selling it.
So private enterprises work for the courts in that aspect. So if you're pursuing a civil agreement or disagreement, you would employ a private enterprise to do that, and they would have the authority from the court.
Thank you.
You have the same barrister-lawyer system as Britain?
Very similar, yes. Yeah, so lawyers deal with more of your petty, non-serious crimes where your barristers start representing your murderers and rapists and things like that.
Do you guys use Ancestry.com or anything like that?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, there's adverts on our TV every second day.
And
I personally haven't done it. I don't know if the other two have, but
yeah,
actually, it would be interesting to find out because, as we know, most of Australians are English convicts. So, interesting to find out.
So when Aussie says no, yes, he means yes, and yes, no, he means no.
That's correct. Yeah. Or it's more yeah, nah, or nah, yeah. We like to shorten everything. I think, James, you got a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Is Swan beer the best beer in the world?
I personally don't drink it. I don't know, Steve or Grant, do you drink it?
I lived in Indonesia for years, and we used to get that in Indonesia.
Sure.
And the most famous guy from Perth was a guy named Alan Bond. I don't know. He used to be a billionaire.
Still is.
Yeah.
Still is. Yeah. I keep sending him emails seeing if he'll give me some, but I still haven't had a reply.
I have a question. Someone told me that Foster's beer is the stuff that you export over to us. Is that true?
You could walk into a liquor store here and you won't see it on our shelves.
Okay.
We actually tried some on our last exchange, our last GSE, and that was the first time I've ever touched it. And I think I was 25 years old at that point.
Wow.
And
well, we'll get you some when you come over.
I had a sip and vowed never to touch it again.
That's funny. Oh, boy.
Are there crafts breweries?
There is a lot. I think, Grant, you're into your beers, mate.
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a new one, Cage Roads, which I've heard is quite nice, which is in Perth. But we've got so many, especially down south in the wine regions and in the Swan Valley, which is a bit closer to Perth. We've got specialty shops just for craft beers. There's too many to poke a stick at, really.
Definitely popping up. Things like pop-up breweries and pop-up distilleries.
Wineries.
Yeah, with our wine, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, Margaret River region down south of Perth, about 3 hours south. It's quite a world-renowned winery region. So I worked down there for 4 years when I was over at the GSE. So never drank wine though, so sort of got kicked out of there pretty quickly.
Are your restaurants open now, or at any, at those small shops? Are they open? Can you go?
Yeah. So so as of last Saturday, so Saturday just gone, we went into what we called stage 3 restrictions.
Yeah.
So we managed it quite intensely here. We actually closed, so those borders that I showed you, those districts that I showed you on our maps,
yeah,
actually closed each of them. So you couldn't even travel within the state. Okay. You had to stay in your own area. Unless you had an exemption, like you're a truck driver delivering food or your emergency services, things like that. So as of Saturday, we've opened up bars and restaurants. They can now have dine-in where they were doing takeaway. They now can have dine-in to up to 100 people indoors and 300 people outdoors, unless it's segregated. So I don't know if anyone's been following my posts or our team's posts on Facebook. But we're running consecutive days of having zero 0 new cases, which is good. So the only cases we have sort of been receiving lately are when ships come into Fremantle Port, which is one of our major ports. We just had a sheep ship come in last week or the week before, which brought about 10 new cases into the state. But what we have been doing is keeping them on the ship unless they need medical assistance, and then they'll be conveyed to hospital with a police escort to ensure that there's no community transmission. So our community transmission has been pretty much 0 for a very long time now.
Good.
Yeah. And we don't wear masks over here. So. Anyone else?
Jeromy, I've got a question about your trip. I'm
Sure.
in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and we've got a lot of American history kinds of things here. Are you guys interested in that? Like George Washington grew up here. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Statute of of Religious Freedom here, things like that.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I know the guys sent their preferences through to me before we left, or before we were due to depart. And I know both the gentlemen on today are very interested in that as well. But that was one of the highlights of my last trip, was seeing those sites and going through the old homes of the old presidents and things like that. We're very interested in American history, and at the end of the day, we're there to learn as much as we can about your history, about your policing, about whatever we can while we're there. So whatever you can throw at us, we'll take.
Look forward to getting a chance to do that.
We do too.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Are you interested in golf, Jeromy?
Definitely. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I was actually
Jonathan, we can get together and.
Sounds good. I was quite spoilt last time we came over. I got to play a few rounds, which was good. I think one of the members took me out to their Trump course in Washington. It was nice. Yeah, we got to play a few different courses, which was good. I might even have to bring my own clubs this time.
Well, neither Jonathan, Harry, or myself are a member of any country club. I don't want to be a part of any club that would have me as a member.
As long as you've got golf and a beer, you've got me. I don't know the other two. Steve or Grant, do you play golf?
No. Mini golf, maybe.
We can do that too.
I did see, Grant, you had a snowboard in your hand in one of those photos, and so I'm a little disappointed you're coming when the weather would be warmer, because I'm a big snowboarder. But
yeah, I've only been the once. I went to New Zealand a couple of years back, probably it was 8 years ago now, and that was the first time I went snowboarding and absolutely fell in love with it. I've got all the equipment just sitting in my wardrobe, but I'm definitely keen to go again.
Doesn't get much use in Perth at all. Like
So
0 use.
what kind of American beer do you like?
Uh-oh.
That's a good question.
Just trying to remember the name. It's in a blue can.
Foster's.
No.
I can't say I've had too much American beer, to be honest.
You can keep your Bud Light to yourself. That's fine. You can keep that.
That's not beer.
No, it's not. Not at all. I actually can't remember the name of it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm definitely keen to try some.
I've always tried something once.
Wasn't
Even
Pabst,
Foster's.
wasn't Pabst in a blue can?
PBR, yeah, maybe it is.
hope we were giving them something better than that. Come on.
Yeah.
I know.
Is this something Jackson? Jack Jackson?
Sam Adams?
Sam Adams, that's the one.
Sam Adams. Blue? Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah, you can, I think it was, who was from Fredericksburg?
Earl.
Yeah.
Well, one of my good family friends, well, I call them family now, Tom, is up from Fredericksburg. I don't think he's there anymore though. I think he's moved, so I don't know how long you've been a member there, but he was one of my, what I called American family.
Tom, you don't remember his last name?
Tom Sanders.
Tom Sanders? No.
No. definitely made some very good friends over there, and I keep in touch with a lot of them still. So, especially in recent days, make sure everyone's okay.
Yeah, you can bring some sanity to our lives.
I don't know if we'll bring much of that, but I'll give it a go.
Sanity and beer.
They go together.
Right. We'll bring some Vegemite for everyone. How about that?
Vegemite. Oh God.
First salt.
I don't actually eat it myself, so.
It's Australian peanut butter, right?
Anyone else got any questions? Grant or Steve, you got anything?
Nothing that I can think of, to be honest.
Grant's the most awake out of all of us because he's just finished shift. I think Steve and I are both on day shifts, so we're back up at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
End of 6 days.
I have a quick question. I know that most of the fires were in New South Wales and Queensland, and I think you all had some bad experiences with fires.
Yeah, we had a bad one just north of Perth, on the northern skirts of Perth, in Yancha, and I actually happened to be driving through that as it commenced, and just sort of see before the roads even got closed. So it was quite scary times at the best time there. But we lost a petrol station. That was the worst of it. So our firefighters did an amazing job at getting on top of it, but not so lucky in these eastern states where they lost a lot. And as you've probably seen, COVID has just taken over the news since it sort of started, and we haven't had much news about the recovery efforts and things like that in relation to the fires. And it's actually quite difficult trying to find out what has happened and what the recovery is with them because of the news that's being held by COVID and now the issues going on in America. So.
And we have some very dear friends who live in Sydney, and they're still angry over that Princess cruise.
Oh yes, that was really bad for them. I think they're still trying to catch up from that. For people that don't know, the Princess cruise came in, and the government didn't handle it as well as they probably should have, but they allowed several hundred passengers off the ship, even though some of them were showing symptoms of COVID. So it was right in the early days of COVID. So they allowed them to walk in and amongst the city for the whole day and then return to the ship. So they copped a lot of deaths from that and exposed a lot of people, unfortunately. So that was
And they said that they just told them they maybe had the flu or a cold or something.
Yeah, and I think because it was so early on in COVID, and we sort of hadn't been exposed to it as much in Australia, we didn't know what to expect or how to deal with it as such. So, but it definitely opened our eyes up over here, and we sort of handled because we had a lot of ships come in, and I think we've had nine deaths in Western Australia from it, and I think 8 of them can be related back to ships. So that we have managed the ships a lot better. So we have if you come into the state of Western Australia at the moment, whether it's internationally or nationally, internally, you have to self-quarantine for 14 days, either in a hotel or in an address that you declare to the police. And then I'm actually part of the team. I lead a team that goes around and checks on the people in quarantine over that 14 days just to ensure that they're complying with it and to make sure they're okay.
Yeah, I was surprised when you said that there were ships landing now.
Yeah. I believe it's international law that if you've got unwell passengers on a cruise ship, the nearest port has to assist. So your hands are sort of tied when it comes to that. But we do manage to quarantine them on the ship unless they need urgent medical attention. Then we'll transfer them to hospital.
Yeah. Wish you luck.
Thank you. You too.
You can get out.
You too. I think you guys have got a big hill to climb.
We do.
It'll be interesting next couple of weeks, especially after these protests, to see the ramifications in relation to COVID.
Yeah, we do hope that things do straighten out well enough for you all to come next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
We look forward to seeing you. I remember when you came last time.
Please arrange.
And I love that big map. You ought to bring it back. the one that shows in the middle. Nothing.
That may already be on our presentation, Grant.
Right.
We've taken enough of your time, Jonathan. We'll throw it back to you.
Thank you, guys. Jeremy, Steve, and Grant, thank you for your time today. And we really look forward to seeing you in person in spring and, sharing a beer with you guys. And I'll dust up on my geography a little bit between now and then as well. But there won't be strangers. I'm sure we'll see more of them on these kind of things, and just through Facebook and everything everywhere else as well between now and then. So thanks everyone for coming on today. Next week is Harry Henderson, and he will give everybody again his insights into the plan for next year as we inch closer to the next Rotary cycle. So everyone stay safe, and look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place.